Welcome to the most forward-thinking, inspirational podcast in this reality. The show designed to challenge everything we've been taught. If you've ever felt there had to be more to life, more to existence, then you're listening to the right podcast. Time to open your mind and dive in. This is the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast.
And here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Mental Mastery Alliance. Episode 324. I ran the promo for this episode long before I recorded this episode, as I am recording this episode now on Easter Sunday. Happy Zombie Jesus Day to you. This one is, again, the day I died twice. And the last time I told the story, I basically told the story of the day. And as I look at this now, I think to myself, so much has gone into my life leading up to the day. The day took place as part of the journey, and so much has taken place after the day. We're now 5 years past the day I died twice. And I think it's funny, too. I posted the promo on the TikTok, ladies and gentlemen. It's a social media site that's gaining traction. So I've utilized the TikTok. And it didn't want to post it. It said, no, we can't put this up. I think it's because I used the word died. I think the censorship is really on to things like that. I think, however, as I'm sitting down to record this, and this is just off the cuff, this is just me as I'm remembering it. I know, how do I even begin? How does one, in a land far, far away. There was a moment in time in my life where I thought I had it all together. And this was also a moment where I'm depressed. So if we go even further back, let's start at the beginning. So one day I was born, and then shortly after that I snapped into consciousness. You are born. Your meat suit shows up, and then you show up shortly afterwards. And how do I talk about this without being esoteric in the beginning? Because you're not. You don't have these ideas. You don't have any of this stuff in the beginning. You just basically try not to shit your pants. That's like the first 10 years of your life. And then the next 5 years, you find out that the opposite sex exists. Oh, gosh. There's boys and girls out there. Ah, la, 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 la. That's good stuff. And then the following 5 years, between 15 and 20, you do everything that you possibly can to attract the fairer sex. For me. So by the time you're 20, the only thing that you've mastered is attempting to talk to women and not shitting yourself. That's the first 20 years of your life. I may be exaggerating on that, but here we are. We roll into 21. Now we can illegally drink in the United States of America. You can rent a car. You can do all of the adult things. And you think you're an adult. And you're utilizing this information based on what you kind of already know. What you think that you feel from how you grew up. I remember being a scared and intimidated teenager. I had switched schools. I'd grown up in Toronto until the age of 13, 14, and then I switched to the small town of Manotick, just outside of Ottawa. And now I'm at a fucking high school in the middle of a farm field, and there's cows everywhere. And it was really weird to do that, coming from the city. And so you're displaced, and you think, why am I here? And for me, it was, maybe there was a disconnect with my mother, or this, that, or the other thing, and all of the angsty things that you can think of as a child. How did I end up here? Because you have this preconceived notion of how your life is supposed to be. I mean, the majority of your life, you live this with this notion and this ideology. But that's never the case, because everything just happens the way it's supposed to happen, essentially. And the confusion comes from you wanting it to be a different way. And I look at this And I think to myself, okay, so there's tension and there's stress inside my life because I now am in a completely foreign place. There's joy because I get the opportunity to experience my father. And then there's stories I tell myself about all kinds of things that led to me being the character that I was for such a prolonged period of time. Now, if we flash forward, I have a niece. We flash forward to today's date as I'm telling this story. I have a niece who has a wonderful mother who happens to be my sister. And she is basically handed the world. Her childhood versus our childhood is night and day. Yet this kid is a terror at times. You just see her raising hell. And you think to yourself, well, you know, I've done everything that I was supposed to do. I changed everything that I didn't like about my youth. And watching it, you realize that it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter what opportunities you give them or how you present to a child. They're going to create the stories inside their heads that create the version of them that they need to be to get through the version of them that they're about to grow through in their teens and early 20s. And that was a powerful moment for me because it allowed me to look back on my life and say, okay, so the stuff that I was holding angst towards and that I felt created or defined me was predominantly in my head. And this is, again, a third dimensional thought process, me not being awake to many things, but always sort of having an idea in the back of my head that there was something a little bit different, either about me or about the system or about how everything was delivered. I've always felt like an outsider. And I would assume that those of you listening to this show as well have a similar sense to themselves, to yourselves, to they themselves. But I don't, I see it now, and I sort of try to do my best to compartmentalize what I may have been thinking back then versus what I think I was thinking back then based on what I know today. And when you have the opportunity to look at yourself, and when you have the opportunity to compare your own bloodline, so to those of you who have kids and to those of you who have nieces and nephews like myself, there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more meat than on the bone than what we had initially thought. And to be able to compartmentalize that, or to be able to add that, to your repertoire of thought processes, it again, like I said, it changes your perception. So now, if I look back on my life, I say to myself, okay, so now I'm 15, 20, and I'm trying to do something, and I'm still dealing with angst and rage and dumb shit inside my mind. And I then go into the business world, the working world. At 21 years old, I think I know everything. So what am I? I'm a bouncer at the time. I'm self-employed. I'd started a window cleaning company when I took over from my father when I was very young, 15. And I was working full-time for a lawn care company. So I'm a bouncer. I'm working for lawn care during the day, and in the afternoons I'm doing windows, and at night I'm working the door. And drugs are involved, and drinking is involved, and partying is involved, and the way of life is involved. And you go from hating yourself to being part of a family inside the bars, or throwing yourself into work, but you're still dragging that angsty hate for yourself into these scenarios. And I'm not speaking for everybody, but I am sharing a little bit of insight into my life. And if it resonates with you, then you know it's a thing. So now I'm going through my 20s, attempting to be something, or attempting to create something that I feel I need to create. A sense of camaraderie, a sense of family in the bars, a sense of dedication with the work that I do, a sense of earning because you're earning really well. And of course, society tells you you're nothing if you don't have certain things, money, this, that, and the other thing. So what are you doing? You're going to try to invest or buy houses or understand how the system works. And back in the 90s and early 2000s, things were a little bit different financially. You could do a lot more with a lot less. Let's just put it that way. So opportunities were there, and they came easy. And they were also based on ill-gotten gains, because when you hate yourself, you do weird things, and you step on people, and you step over people. You don't care because you don't respect you. So why would you respect them? And the problem with this is it makes things worse and worse for you, because you're now still, at the end of the day, you're the person that has to live with you. So all of your actions in every capacity or every facet fall back on you. And that's where more anxiety and more depression come from, because once again, you're living out of alignment. You're living out of the purity of alignment, which you later find out. But you're drifting further and further away. The more disdain you feel for yourself and for your man and for the people around you and this, that, and the other thing. So as you're progressing through, you're sort of fundamentally working off kilter, which is kind of the design, because we were also thrown heavily influential videos, MTV Cribs, Pimp My Ride, all these things that were indicative of how much money you need to have and where you should be, either financially or socially on any sort of given spectrum. And if you don't live up to that, well, guess what? You beat yourself up even more. So typically at that point, you've reverted back to drinking or doing drugs to escape the realities of you not being good enough, no matter how much effort you put in. You find yourself in a downward spiral without even realizing it, because you think it's just the norm. And then the doctors are there to offer you drugs. Hey, maybe you want to try this or that or do something to get off of your downward spiral. And so you do. And now you're on medication for something that was intentionally done to you, but you can't quite see that yet. And then you parlay out, right? So now you've done everything that you can do. You've lived your entire life up until 30. And now you're in your 30s. And you realize that the bar life it can't go on forever. You can't be that old man in the bar. You don't want to be a bouncer into your 30s. Things change. A lot of things change. The idea of status from being a bouncer or from being connected in the club scene to essentially being a local celebrity in your small town wherever you grew up type of thing. All of this, the dynamics of all of this change, but you don't kind of know where you want to go. And again, I'm putting this more in a third person's perspective, but this was my reality. I can go into massive detail about so many things, but this is a grand overall scheme. So now you're in your 30s and things aren't what they seem to be, and you're drawn, or I'm drawn. I don't know how to keep going back and forth. You guys can figure it out. I'm talking about me, but I'm also referring to you. And some of you are probably living the exact same experience that I was. So I and you and we, all of them work today. The idea to being, now that we're in our 30s, and now that we've, spent the first 10 years of our life not shitting our pants, the next 10 years of our life understanding and trying to be something so that we can attract something else. And then the next grouping of years, whether it's 5, for me, it was 7. I mean, I turned around at 37, but that was also the day I died twice. So for the next 7 years, I was no longer in my 20s, and I was no longer, I didn't quite feel like the 30s were a thing, and I didn't want to get any older, because you're desperately holding on to a moment or a stage in life. And I look at it and I see this fear of what's to come. Third dimensionally, you're locked into an ideology. You're locked into a character that you're playing, somebody that you believe that you're supposed to be, a position that you're supposed to carry or hold. And it's hard to break out of that. Waking up was stolen. The term waking up was stolen and instantly became woke. And this was an intentional term in the media to take anyone that was cognitively becoming aware of their scenario and calling it woke, which meant now you're just a douchebag. Now you're a woke member of society that's becoming aware of certain proclivities. But that's just another layer of douchebaggery. So there's a huge difference between woke and waking up. And when you start truly waking up, it is amazing how you start talking to yourself. The difference in how you start talking to yourself. The difference in how you show up for yourself. So now we're going through our 30s, and I am gradually coming to terms with certain things. I'm also understanding other things. We've also dealt with a lot of scenarios that no longer make any sense. 2012 was a huge awakening for a lot of people too, like a mental and ethereal shift that not a lot of people talk about. But it was a massive one. 2012 was a massive shift that people started paying attention to certain things. And then we start growing through more and more things. And for me, at 37, so 2017, I decided that I was completely done. Well, actually, I didn't decide that. I said to myself, you know what, after a long bender of drinking and drugs, and that was another problem too, because when you were doing coaching, sales coaching, and that sort of stuff, it was easy to get lost. Think of the movie Wolf of Wall Street. It's easy to get lost in the family of that as well. And when you're trying to discover yourself and create a version of you, it's so bad to have all of these influences around you, which are intentional. The influences that are negative towards you, i.e. those that want to drink, those that want to do drugs, those that represent sort of nefarious versions of partying, they are around you because they're meant to keep you in place. And when you decide that it's time for you to step into your position and it's time for you to do more, you'll find that these people will come out of the woodwork. You'll become the most popular guy in the world because all of these people will start reaching out to you once you start backing off. And it's an ethereal thing. So we think that these people are real people doing these things and it's this, that, and the other thing. But you come to realize later that the harder you push against the universe, the harder the universe pushes back. And I've quoted that 1,000 times, but it's the truth. The universe is a living entity that I don't want to say you're occupying. I'm saying you are all of it. The idea, the division factor between your meat suit and the external world. I think it was KRS-One that said you're utilizing the quote unquote external versions of you to exist. Because if you stopped breathing, like if you covered your mouth and nose, he goes on to say, if you covered your mouth and nose, you don't pass out from starvation. You don't pass out from thirst. You pass out from lack of consciousness. And so are you breathing in oxygen or are you breathing in consciousness? Are we in it? Are we all around it? And I firmly believe that everything around us is part of us. It is us. I can go into great detail about that as well, but I don't think I need to at this moment in time, or at least not in this show. We're talking about other things. So as we sit here and as we progress through this journey, and as we get to the point where it's time for us to understand and comprehend more about who and what we are, the idea that I had been so drunk the night before or the week before that I was like, okay, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to take a 30-day detox, which is what I did. And then at 30 days, a buddy of mine, whom I don't talk to anymore, but was an absolute saint because it was this very moment in time that changed everything for me. He said, you just did 30 days? He's like, I want to do it. And I'm like, okay, if you want to do it, I'll do it with you. And then I went 30 more days without a drink. And by the time I'd hit 60 days, I had already quit all drugs, all recreational everything, and cigarettes and all things that were bad for me. And that included women, nefarious women. That included the idea of me putting next to me a version of a human that resonated with the broken aspects of me. And so this was the beginning for me. So I'm 3 years now into this in the year 2020, and I had quit everything. I'm now 3 years sober, and I'm on this amazing journey of self-discovery, of self-comprehension, of self-understanding. And I haven't really been put to the test, so I'm still egoically charged with all kinds of stuff. And it's an interesting factor too, because to denounce the ego is to admit that there is an ego, and to admit that there is an ego is egoic, and to denounce the ego is egoic, etc., etc. I use these terms loosely because there's no better way to get the point across without using the word. So now I wake up in the morning. I am 40 years old at this time, 40 and a half. And I have this pain in my lower back. And it sort of moves up. It's like, I don't know how to put it. It's like right below my rib cage in my back, if that's a thing, if you can picture that. And then the pain moves to the front. And a friend of mine, Randy Spencer, had just been talking about the heart attack that he had and what it felt like. And so I thought to myself, shit, I'm having a heart attack. And I'm like, I can walk this off. I can listen to stuff. So this was like around 10 o'clock at night. And by 12 o'clock of me attempting to either fall asleep or sleep it off or hopefully the pain goes away, it had actually just progressively gotten worse to the point where I called telehealth, and telehealth told me what was going on, what I needed to do, and that I needed to, or that they'd already sent an ambulance to my house. So within minutes, I'm in the back of an ambulance. And now I go into the hospital and I'm in excruciating pain. I'm in the most pain that I've ever been in my entire life. And we've built up to this day, ladies and gentlemen. Before I left the house was the first time I truly died. And there's all this talk of egoic death. There's all this talk of utilizing your ego to be something, to say something, to do something, to create a definition of something. And for me, what had happened was I was convinced I was having a heart attack because this pain had now turned into what felt like a robotic hand. Picture a metal hand. Picture the Terminator's hand as he's sticking his thumb up as it's going into the hot lava. That hand, it felt like, had now been grabbing onto my heart. So what initially started as essentially the rebar, it felt like rebar had been run through my torso. It now specifically felt like a metal hand was holding onto the bottom of my heart. And so I'm standing looking at a collection of pants. And I said, okay, I'm putting these pants on. And I picked the pants. I remember this. I said, if I don't come back, I'm going to die in these pants. And I choose these pants to die in. And that was egoic death. I come to find that this was egoic death. This was me accepting that I'm going to die. This was how much pain I was in internally. My body was riddled with pain. And so I chose my death pants and said, there's a high likelihood that I am not coming back to this house. Now, death number one. As I progress in this ambulance to the hospital, the pain is getting excruciatingly more and more and more. And I'm strapped to this gurney. And now I'm in the fucking check-in. Thank God I was with the ambulance because they checked me in a lot faster. But I'm in pain that I've never felt before. It's now moved all across my body, and it feels like a clump moving through my body. And the doctors see me in this kind of pain, this excruciating pain, and they start rushing around, and they get me in for x-rays, and I'm laying on a bed, I'm sitting on a chair, I can't sit, I can't lay down, I can't stand up. I then go to the bathroom, and I'm violently ill. I'm just throwing up left, right, and center. It was like the bloody scene from The Exorcist, aside from, well, my head might have even done a 360. I really don't know at this point. It was fucking wild. So then I'm back. I'm emptied out. I feel a little bit better, but I'm still ultra nauseous. And so I'm on the bed. I'm off the bed. I'm on the bed. I'm laying down. I'm sitting up. I'm standing. I'm walking around. The doctor comes to me, or one of the nurses comes to me and says, "You're making the other patients nervous." And I said, well, it fucking sucks to be them because I'm more nervous than I've ever been in my entire life. And I'm in so much pain. Doctor, please, for the love of God, help me. So what happens is they put me in a room, and I think, okay, this is great. So it's a private room. I lay down. Now they've got me on some sort of painkiller. And I am in La La Land. Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that I'm also three years sober. So even if you gave me a Tylenol, I might have been in La La Land. But they heavy dutied my ass. And so I was off in, was that the KLF? Oh, bound for Moo Moo Land. Tammy Wynette. That was me, baby. So now I'm doped up. I'm in a chair, and they're like, okay, we're going to get you in for x-rays. So they wheel me into the back with my go-go juice on my arm. And I'm no longer pacing and making the patients nervous. I get an ultrasound done on my gallbladder. And I never even said that I've got gallbladder issues. I just told them what the hell was going on. And the first thing they did was they examined my gallbladder. Now your gallbladder is supposed to be what did the guy say? It's like the size of a snap pea or whatever. Well, mine apparently was the size of a mini football. And I thought that was pretty impressive. I said, look at me go. But what had happened was sometimes with the gallbladder, you get gallstones. We've all heard of gallstones. Sometimes you can break them up with sound frequencies. Sometimes you just have to pass them. Well, my gallstones, so the other thing too is you also get gall sludge, which is another thing. Now, what had happened with me is my gallstones had backed up so much so that the gallstones and the gall sludge had elongated my gallbladder to 10 times the size it normally is. On top of that, it had gone so long that the thing was going gangrenous, which we didn't find out until I was already on the table. Which brings us to the day I died twice, the second time. But first and foremost, let's talk about this. I am now back out of the x-ray. I am out of the private room, so I no longer have a private room. I am in hospital gown with testicles a fallopian. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry for the visual. But they stripped me. Thank God the hospital was kept relatively warm. I don't know where my clothes are. I'm sitting in Gen Pop, and COVID had just started too. And I was completely anti-COVID at the time, like adamantly anti-COVID. And so now, fuck. As I'm telling the story, I'm remembering it too. It's just wild. So now I'm sitting in, picture a general waiting room. Except for they've got these fucking dividers up, these plastic sheet dividers, the plexiglass. Really, I think COVID was brought to you by plexiglass. Let's just put that out there. Anyway, so now I'm sitting between these two sheets of plexiglass, and I'm a big dude. So I'm pushing the sheets apart with my shoulders. But I'm in this fucking chair, and I've got this thing, and I'm draped with painkillers galore. And I'm sitting in this chair, and I was so doped up on painkillers that I was out cold. I woke up when she changed the bag, and yeah, so I think that was like 3 hours that I'm just out. This is now like 6 a.m. So I go in. I got in at midnight, and by about 6 a.m, I get put into a room. And by 7:30 in the morning, I'm wheeled into surgery. And I later come to find out that this is like record-breaking time for somebody to just come in off the street and to be operated on. But my gallbladder, apparently, according to the charts, was so bad. And then they get in there, and they've got enough anesthesia for me to be under for, I don't know, 35, 40 minutes for whatever the operation is. But it turns out I was under for about 5 hours. And something to do with the anesthesia not being properly set or what have you, I ended up waking up with them inside me. And it freaked me the hell out. I don't necessarily remember. I vaguely remember like opening my eyes briefly, but it sent my body into shock, and then I flatlined. So the panic, the this, the that, the overt stress or whatever, my body just decided to flatline. So that was the second time I died, which was on the operating table. And that was an actual death by all medical terms, 47 seconds. And that to me was a wild experience. Afterwards, I woke up. I remember waking up, but I woke up swinging. So I woke up in like a recovery hall wing or whatever the hell, and there was 2 nurses over me, and apparently I woke up swinging. Well, I mean, I remember waking up swinging. And then I gathered my thoughts, and I was talking to the nurse, and she's like, yeah, don't worry about that. And, you know, some people shit themselves before they wake up. I'm like, well, thank God that didn't happen. Yeah. And anyway, so typically a gallbladder surgery, you're in and out. Same day. I was in the hospital for 6 days altogether while they sort of monitored the gangrene, and they monitored whether or not they got everything and all that sort of stuff. I still have pain in that area to this day. So I don't even know if they got everything, but you know, I just assume. But yeah, so now I'm in the hospital. I'm still on painkillers. They're monitoring me. I'm going through the experiences. COVID's a thing. And even before they would put me in, I remember getting into a fight with the nurse She's like, I got to put this swab up your nose to make sure you don't have COVID. I'm like, I don't have COVID. COVID's not real. And she's like, well, we have to do it or we can't operate on you. Like, these people were legitimately going to let me fucking just die if I didn't let her stick that thing up my nose. And I was so doped up at the time. Like, I couldn't hide. Like, it wasn't fear. It was, I mean, it may have come across as fear, but it was blind rage that there was nothing I could do, that I had to just fucking settle for the fact that this was going to happen to me. This thing was going to go out my nose. And I had just seen some article about they were implanting microbiome nodes or whatever, you know, all that shit. I was already heavily into the conspiracies of all this stuff. And so, like, it didn't bode well for me. Anyway, so they did that. I was ragey and frustrated, but super kind. The nurse was like, hey, man, like, I see that you're upset. So, you know, we're not going to do this. We're not going to, you know, I'll just tap the inside of your nose. And she did. She literally just tapped the inside of my nostril. I'm like, oh, thank God you're an angel. So it couldn't have got any better in that sense. But now 5 days have gone by. I'm waking out of the drug stupor, the painkillers and all that sort of stuff. And there was a drainage pump left in me that they had to pull out, which was so gross. I don't know if any of you have lived through that. But when they started reefing on that rubber tube to get it out of my system, I mean, it was mandatory that it was in there because the pus that was coming out of that fucking thing after surgery. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, to gross you out like that, but I like to go into detail sometimes. It was wild. It was absolutely wild. But yeah, when that thing came out, that was a moment in time for sure. I'll tell you what. It made me thankful that I've never had to have a catheter put in because Jesus Christ, I can only imagine what that feels like. Anyway. So that was the day I died twice. The egoic death was the pants. I don't know how to put it. I had accepted my fate. Like, truly accepted my fate. Not just talk a game about accepting your fate. Like, I had accepted it. And then I did die. And it was, the best way I can describe it was like tech support. Have you tried unplugging it and plugging it back in? That's how I felt. Like, I came back online, and as the drugs wore off, everything in my body functioned better. And this was also a direct result of the fact that for the past however many years, my gallbladder had been getting progressively worse and worse, and I didn't know. And this was over the course of years. So I would have had symptoms for years about my gallbladder not working properly and turning gangrenous and eating the other organs in my body. But yeah, so that was gone. So there was the health factor from that. But yeah, it certainly felt like a total reset or a refresh, a restart, a recalibration. And so now I'm on the other side of essentially double death, egoic death and physical death. And this to me was the true beginning of me becoming as self-aware as I am right now. Like, I am currently more self-aware today than I was 5 years ago. And every single day I wake up and there are things about me that I hate, things about me that I appreciate, things about me that I know I can change, things about me that I love. But I have the ability to sort of see and properly look at and not take offense to, or not be bothered by, or not allow outside sources to influence. It's just for me to understand that this is the journey that I'm on. And on that journey, there are things that I have to do. I absolutely have to be the best version of myself to help other people get through what they're doing. It's the character I must play. And by saying that, I'm also hyper aware now of the character I must play. And that doesn't mean that I'm locked into doing something. It means that I'm aware of essentially the simulation. I'm aware of the code and the programming that is all around us. I'm aware and I'm able to extrapolate pieces of information from everything. I'm able to utilize the mystery to debunk the mystery, if that makes any sense. And I'm nowhere near finding out any true or real answers, but the massive shift and change from depression, anxiety, all of that sort of stuff, to after the day it happened, after the moment it happened, is noticeable, palpable. You can tell. And that to me was huge. That to me has been probably one of the most amazing revelations, realizations, understandings, comprehensions that has gone into this. So I find myself now at 44 years old. I am 4 years on the other side of the day I died twice. And almost 5. And I think in the past 4 years, I have grown as a human exponentially. And what that allows me to do is help myself and help others remove anxiety and depression. Help myself tap into comprehension and understanding that the majority of what we see, think, feel, and do stems from the lies that we've been told. And it's hard to put your finger on the lies, even though all of you listening to this know that there are the lies. But this goes beyond that. This goes beyond the conspiracy. One thing I learned and realized was, level 1 of waking up is waking into the conspiracy. So now you're doing conspiratorial thoughts. You're talking about 9/11. You're talking about, World Trade Centers and Pentagons. You're talking about the AIDS virus. You're talking about Black Tom. You're talking about goddamn Tartaria. You're talking about the mud floods. You're talking about star forts. You're talking about general knowledge and comprehension and understanding. And you're like, okay, well, all of this stuff is helping me understand that history was a lie because there's so much proof of all of these things out here. And from there, you expand even beyond that, where you realize that the lie only exists to essentially help you get further into your journey, because you have to think past the conspiracy as well. Then this is something that people don't want to talk about because they identify so strongly with the conspiracy. They identify so strongly with being a victim of the world around you. And this is one of the craziest things in the world, is because when you're dead asleep, you're a victim of your circumstance. When you start to wake up, and if you stay in the wake up pattern, you're now living in essentially fear and anger. Fear of what they could do, anger of what they have done to you. So you're still living in that fear cycle. You're still omitting that fear energy, which I believe the system feeds off. And again, that could be, that's just where I feel right now. And that will change in the future, because I also don't believe in the negatives anymore. I don't believe in an ultra negative, and I don't believe in ultra positive. I believe that everything is. I believe that it just is. And when you adapt this approach, you realize that everything obviously is happening for you. So the worst experiences in your life, you no longer have to be a victim to these experiences, because once you think past the conspiracy, now you're into a realm where not a lot of people are sharing information. And remember this, the quote unquote normal world, round 1 is education. Round 2 is what you can find by yourself on the internet. And keep in mind too, that everything's absolutely censored. So whatever you're able to find, you've been allowed to find. So it's been curated for you as well, which means all of your conspiracy theories were handed to you. And that's not something that a lot of people want to accept. But what comes after the conspiracy theories is understanding who you are, understanding what you're truly capable of, and understanding that if you believe in the normal stuff, you're locked in. If you adamantly believe in the conspiracy stuff, you're now locked into that as well. So it's multiple layers of traps. There is a third layer on top of that, so that you dig even deeper. You get to a third layer of the rabbit hole, which is white hatting. So you start to see things as positive and all that sort of stuff, which is great, right? But then you still have to see things as positive, you still have to correlate to the negative. And the next layer of that is to see that there is no positive and there is no negative, that everything is perception, and that your perception was handed to you throughout the course of your life. So everything that you could deem as negative was something that was handed to you, and everything that you can deem as positive was something that was handed to you, even in any stage that you were at mentally. So as I progress down these holes, I get glimpses of the 6th dimension, the 7th dimension. And 5th dimensional thinking is beautiful, because 5th dimensional thinking frees you up to do a lot of things. Prime example with regards to the coaching industry. And like I said before, I'm playing a character that's helping people. But you also have to help yourself, because money, much like air, means nothing until you don't have any. The idea is utilize what's in here, this game that we've come to play, to maximize and benefit and make yourself the best version of you that you can be. But also in this game, we've been told and taught that we have to put everybody else first, put them before us. I could go into great detail about that as well, but we all know that. I mean, every single person that that got the COVID shot, none of them did it for themselves because they believed in the COVID shot. They did it because they wanted to see grandma, they wanted to travel, they wanted to do something else. It was massive manipulation. And again, this, to utilize this tool or this as an observation, think about what they've done with COVID. They simultaneously have to convince people that it's not working so that they have to get more boosters. They also have to convince the people that have never gotten boosters that it is working and that they must get themselves some shots. And they're running simultaneous campaigns. This is political doublespeak. This is what the world is. And when you remove the idea that somebody's running a COVID campaign and you understand that it is merely part of the very simulation that you are talking about, it runs on the same principles as who and what you are and where you are. I was having a very similar conversation with my girlfriend the other day about Facebook bots. So she posted something and somebody chirped her, and I said, "That's just a bot account. Don't worry about that one." And she says, "No, he's a real person. People know him." And I said, I understand that, but he as a real person in reality is just a bot. He's not forming true thoughts. He's not creating anything. He is simply playing out blindly his systemic role. And that is not something that people can firmly grasp. Like, we all know the term NPC, but when you come face to face with one, you're like, no, that's a real person, but they aren't. And we don't know how many real people are here. We don't even know anything. Because everything that we do know and every piece of information that we do have, again, in any terminology, was handed to us. So as we're trying to deduce who we are, what we are, and where we are based on any information that we have, all of it stems from lies and manipulation. All of it, 100% of everything handed to you is a lie. And it's designed to confuse, because if you're confused, you just throw your hands in the air and say, whatever, I'll do as I'm told. And when you get past certain things, again, why I'm beating this horse into the ground is because all of this changed for me the day I died twice. Coming out the other side of this, and I'm not glorifying what took place, I'm just saying this is the position that I find myself in. And a lot of people will say things like, or you hear a lot of terms that are you to find the light, you must be surrounded by darkness. And that makes sense. I don't know a single light worker in this industry, in this field, that hasn't walked through the gates of hell in some way or another, whether it was self-inflicted or done to them or what have you. But every single person I know in this industry has come here, has come to the light through excruciating personal darknesses. And this is another reason why I love that statement. You're not a prisoner of your past. It was a lesson. Your mindset locks you into certain things and has you believe that you can do certain things or you can't do certain things. Your mindset. The world around you that's filled your mind since the day you were born has taught you your own limitations. And when you can step out of that programming and redefine your own limitations based on what you deem you want to do, then you figure out how to do it. You can literally do anything. Because if you think you want to do it, then you've already seen somebody else do it, or it's already been in the ethos or the experience that somebody else has done it. And the reason that you know they've done it is because you needed to know that they did it so that you could either want to attain it or you could compare yourself to it. The choice is yours. Oh, I'll never be this, that, and the other thing because so-and-so has that, and this, that, and the other thing. They got a better start. They got a better start than me, so I can't emulate them. They come from a rich background. I come from nothing. Everything exists for you to overcome it. The whole purpose of you being here is to figure out who and what you are and what you can handle and what you can accomplish. So as I sit here and I talk to you about the day I died twice, I come from a point in time where I was an asshole. And that stemmed from me hating me. And that stemmed from the lies that I was told about the world that we live in. And how I chose to egoically feel about the way I was treated and how I felt I deserved more. Did I? Did I do anything to deserve more, or was I just running my program? I progressed into understanding a little bit more about myself, and then I progressed into egoic death, then life after. And for me, life truly began at 40. To me, I'm 4 years in, and there's a saying out there that says, everything up until 40 is a trial run. Life begins at 40. And for me, it did. 100%. I can 100% back that statement up. And what I love about this is at 40 years old, I feel younger than I've ever felt before. I feel like I'm at the very beginning of the rest of my life. And I feel like there's just so much out there. There's so much time left. There's so much stuff that can be done, can be achieved, can be accomplished. We came here. We specifically came here. We chose to come into this realm, into this reality to play this game. This was a choice. To any of you who are listening to this right now, you consciously made this choice. And it could easily be said that nobody's listening to this podcast, but I need to consciously say these things because it's part of my character, right? And this is another major thing too. When you start creating in these realms, in these realities, you cannot create for them. I can't put anything out here that I think you guys are going to like. I have to put out what I like. And when I put that out, then some of you are going to like it and some of you aren't going to like it. But those that do like it and those that do benefit from it, you benefit the most from my authenticity, as opposed to me just using my voice to push a program or a product or something like that. And I even know still to this day that I'm just running my program. My program was to become aware, to become awake, to see things, to get beyond things. I'm not here to escape the matrix anymore. I'm here to experience where I put myself. Ladies and gentlemen, if any of this resonated with you and if you want to talk more on it, or if you have any experience or questions or anything like that, shoot us an email. Shoot me an email directly, adam@thementalmasteryalliance.com. You can DM us on Instagram. Somebody on Instagram will get back to you probably within the hour. They have changed the mailboxes on Instagram though, so if you don't hear back from us, message us again. We're not being rude. We just haven't seen the message come in. It got filtered through something. And I will tell you this, there are a copious amounts of porn bots all over Instagram funneling people with all kinds of shit. So you're like, if you send a message, 10 porn bots have probably sent something before you, but we've got people scanning them. And we are looking for every single person that reaches out to us. We do want to talk to. We do want to help. We do want to give you guys some time, energy, effort, whatever you need. We are here for you. And we are here to glorify this amazing experience. So I will say this, ladies and gentlemen, it was fun to get this out there. It was fun to have this conversation. It was fun to share this again. And it probably won't be the last time I share this, because every single time I share this, there's a new piece of something that I unlocked, or there's something new that I connected to this. But we did 50 minutes here of me talking about the day I died twice. And it was the tie-in to who we were, who we are, where we're going. And you don't need to die to have these experiences, but you can certainly tell yourself that you're on an awareness track, and that for you, the next step is an incredible one, would be my guess. I don't know. I do know this though, and I can say this with enthusiasm. I can say, ladies and gentlemen, in the infamous words of Red Green, keep your stick on the ice.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast. Stay connected with us directly through the mentalmasteryalliance.com. You can also join the discussion on Instagram at instagram.com/the Mental Mastery Alliance. Let the team know you're listening by using the hashtag TMMA or tagging us at the Mental Mastery Alliance. To have your voice heard on the show, leave a voicemail or send a text to 647-338-1265. Long distance charges may apply. If you love us, leave us a review. If you hate us, you spend your time in weird ways, but also leave a review. Every review on iTunes tickles the algorithm, helping us grow. Until next time, unity over division. This concludes the most surreal portion of your day.
You got it, Pontiac.